Years ago, I was sitting in my car in a parking garage, too embarrassed to go back into the office, staring at a voicemail from a collections agency. I made $58,000 a year. I had a 401k I barely touched and a credit card balance that had been slowly climbing for 3 years like a tide I kept pretending was not rising. The worst part was not the debt. It was that I genuinely had no idea how I had gotten there. I was not buying designer clothes or taking lavish vacations. I was just living. Normally, Americanly. And somehow that had been enough to put me $11,000 in the hole with nothing saved and everything owed. That same week, completely by accident, I fell down a rabbit hole reading about the financial habits of ordinary Japanese households. Not millionaires, not investment gurus, ordinary salaried workers, people making less money than I was, in one of the most expensive cities on earth, saving 18 to 22% of their income while carrying almost no consumer debt. I want you to stay until the very end of this video, because the 10th rule I am going to share is the one nobody talks about. It does not sound like a financial tip at all. It sounds like something your grandmother would say. And it is the single reason I went from that parking garage moment to $26,000 saved in 16 months on the exact same salary, same job, same apartment, same life, different rules. I am Liana, welcome to Liana Invests, and this is the video I wish I had found 4 years ago. Rule 1, MANOBI, the power of empty space. Ma is a Japanese concept that describes the power of intentional emptiness. In design, in music, in architecture, Ma is the deliberate pause that gives everything around it meaning. In American financial life there is no Ma. Every dollar is allocated before it arrives. Every month is packed edge to edge with obligations and expenses that leave zero breathing room. When an emergency hits, there is nowhere for it to land except debt. Ma applied to money means you deliberately leave space in your financial life. You do not spend to the edges of your income. Practically this means treating 85% of your take-home pay as your ceiling, not your floor. That 15% moves automatically to savings the morning your paycheck lands. The Federal Reserve 2024 report found that 37% of Americans could not cover an unexpected $400 expense. That is not an income problem. That is a Ma problem. Those households have no empty space for real life to land in. Rule 2, Shokunin spirit, master one habit at a time. Shokunin is the Japanese word for a craftsperson who dedicates their life to mastering one skill completely. A sushi shokunin may spend a decade learning only rice before ever touching fish. Americans approach personal finance the opposite way. We try to do everything simultaneously. Pay off debt, build an emergency fund, max the 401k, start a Roth IRA, open an HSA. The overwhelm is so total that most people do nothing. Shokunin applied to finances means you master one habit completely before adding the next. Month 1, automate a transfer to a high-yield savings account. Month 2, cancel every subscription and used in 30 days. Month 3, raise your 401k contribution by 1%. Each move is small. Each move is finished. By month 12 you have 12 compounding habits running simultaneously. My friend Rachel, a teacher in Phoenix, applied this after years of abandoning full financial overhauls by February. She started with one $200 automated monthly transfer and nothing else. 18 months later she had saved $8,400 and raised her 401k contribution from 3% to 9%. Rule 3, Kansha, gratitude as a spending filter. Kansha means gratitude in Japanese, but not the greeting card version. It is a practiced awareness of what you already have before you reach for what you do not. Before any non-essential purchase, Kansha is a 10-second pause and one honest question. Do I already have something that does this job well enough? Researchers at Cornell University found that anticipation of a purchase produces nearly as much dopamine as the purchase itself, and that satisfaction fades within 72 hours. Kansha interrupts that anticipation loop before your wallet opens. I started practicing this before every purchase over $30. In the first day I chose not to buy 14 things I had been planning to purchase. Total avoided spending was $612, not because I could not afford them. Because when I paused, I realized I already owned something that served the same purpose. Rule 4, Nemawashi, slow decisions, strong outcomes. Nemawashi literally means going around the roots. It describes the Japanese practice of deliberate slowness before major decisions, examining every angle, never rushing to action even when urgency feels real. In financial terms, Nemawashi is the antidote to impulse spending. Americans make financial decisions at the speed of a notification. One-click purchase. Sign up while the offer lasts. The urgency is always engineered. The discount always comes back. Nemawashi means you impose a mandatory waiting period on every significant financial decision. I use a 72-hour rule for anything over $75 and a 30-day rule for anything over $300. If I still want it after the window, I buy it without guilt. If I have forgotten about it, I just saved that money. The National Retail Federation estimates impulse purchases account for roughly 40% of all American consumer spending. On a $55,000 salary, that is thousands of dollars leaving your account before your brain had a chance to weigh in. Rule 5, Mottainai Fukuro. The regret envelope. Mottainai is the Japanese feeling of regret over waste. Here is a practice I adapted from it. At the start of each month, you take a physical envelope and label it Mottainai. Every time you make a purchase you regret within that same day, you write it on a slip of paper with the amount and drop it in the envelope. At the end of the month, you open it and total the regret. You do not punish yourself. You simply know your number. That awareness alone changes behavior. In my first month, my total was $340, mostly food delivery and a forgotten restarted subscription. Month 2 it was $180. Month 4 it was $47. I had not created new spending rules. I had made my own regret visible to myself, and visibility changed behavior without requiring a single ounce of willpower. Rule 6, Ikigai no Okane. Money with a mission. Ikigai means reason for being. In Japan, it is not a career framework. It is a life framework. Applied to money, it answers the question every budgeting app and financial calculator almost never asks. What is the money actually for? Most Americans save because they are supposed to and spend because something caught their eye. There is no guiding mission underneath either behavior. Ikigai no Okane. Money with a mission means you define before you budget what specific life your money is building, not vague retirement. A specific life with specific qualities. My financial Ikigai was simple. I wanted to work because I chose to, not because I had to. By age 50, once I had that clarity, every financial decision became a vote for or against that specific future. Unnecessary purchases did not just feel expensive, they felt irrelevant. Purpose replaces discipline every single time. Rule 7, Chochiku Suru. Save before you see it. Chochiku means to save, but the cultural practice behind it goes further than the English word implies. In traditional Japanese household, saving was not what happened after spending. It was what happened before. The moment income arrived, a portion left immediately for savings. This is what behavioral economists now call pre-commitment. You remove the decision from the moment of temptation by making it before temptation exists. Chochiku Suru in modern American terms means your savings transfer executes the morning after every paycheck, before you have touched a single dollar of it. Vanguard's 2025 How America Saves report found that participants with automatic contribution escalation saved at twice the rate of those managing contributions manually. On a $62,000 salary, pre-committing 15% from day one produces $9,300 in year one. Over 25 years at 8% returns, that compounds to approximately $677,000. The same salary with end-of-month saving typically produces close to nothing because expenses expand to fill every available dollar. Rule 8, Mono no aware. Stop buying permanence. Mono no aware translates roughly as the bittersweet awareness that all things are impermanent. Cherry blossoms are celebrated in Japan not despite lasting only one day but because of it. Americans spend enormous sums trying to purchase permanence. Too much house because it feels safer. Too much car because it feels more durable. Possessions accumulated as if surrounding ourselves with objects creates stability. Mono no aware says impermanence is the truth and fighting it is expensive. Before any major purchase, ask whether you are buying the thing itself or the feeling of permanence it represents. If it is the feeling, find a less expensive way to meet that need. Experience 2024 data shows Americans carry an average of $17,900 in non-mortgage debt. A meaningful portion of that is impermanence spending, money paid for the feeling of being more settled in a life that is, by nature, neither. Rule 9, Seikatsu Hogo. Protect the foundation first. Seikatsu Hogo means protecting one's livelihood foundation. In Japanese financial culture, before you optimize for growth, you protect what you have built. Emergency fund first. Appropriate insurance first. High-interest debt eliminated before aggressive investing. Americans do this backwards with alarming consistency. We invest in speculative assets before we have 3 months of expenses saved. We carry high-interest credit card debt while simultaneously putting money into investment accounts earning 8%. The math on that is painful. Paying 22% interest on a balance while earning 8% in an index fund means losing 14 percentage points on every dollar trapped in that cycle. My friend Daniel in Seattle was putting $400 monthly into a brokerage account while carrying $7,200 in credit card debt at 24% APR. The day he redirected that money toward the debt, he earned a guaranteed 24% return. No investment on earth offers that without risk. Seikatsu Hogo first. Always. Rule 10. Hansei, the monthly financial mirror. This is the rule I almost left out because it sounds too simple to matter. It does not have a mechanism or a math formula. It sounds like something your grandmother would say. And it is the reason every other rule on this list actually worked for me, because without it, none of the others would have stuck. Hansei means self-reflection. In Japanese schools, companies, and households, it is a structured, sincere examination of what you did, what resulted, and what you will do differently, not guilt. Honest looking. Applied to finances, Hansei is a monthly 10-minute practice where you sit with your actual numbers and ask 3 questions without judgment. Did I move toward the life I defined this month? What spending brought me genuine satisfaction? What would I do differently next month? That is the entire practice. 3 questions, 10 minutes, once a month. I started this in month 2 of my financial reset. By month 4 I could see patterns in my spending that no app had ever surfaced for me. Because apps show you data while Hansei makes you look at what the data means about the choices you are actually making. The woman sitting in that parking garage 4 years ago was not lacking income. She was lacking reflection. She had never once sat still with her own numbers and asked herself honestly how she felt about them. That is where all of it starts. That is where it always starts. If this video shifted something for you, subscribe to Liana Invests. Every single day I publish one more piece of this system, built for the real financial life you are actually trying to create. Leave me a comment below telling me which of these 10 rules you are starting with today.